today I actually thought that I wasn't even going to be able to do today's live stream because when I pulled up the material to go through the Google trial exhibits, I found this, and it showed me this whole thing for like access denied and that I don't have permission to access this site on this server. And at first I just saw this part, and then I see it's an error thing, and I looked into this, and I think it was just probably something about needing to clear out my cache or whatever the fuck it's called, um, or something like that maybe, I don't know. But when I first saw this, like I was like, I'm a little too paranoid to see something like this on a government website, like, So I was in my head for a second, but I was able to access it from a different browser, and I was also able to keep trying on this browser, and I was able to pull it up, so we are good to go. But for 2 shakes of a lamb's tail, I was really like, what the fuck? Because it wasn't working for a second there on this browser, and I was like, what did I say in my previous material to make them block me? But anyway, no, that's what happens when you have Cheech and Chong around too much, I think. But anyway, it's it's just like a little error. But so what we'll do is recap last time. Well, I'm gonna roll my intro, and then I'll recap last live stream's trial exhibits, and then we'll just keep seeing how many we can do this time. We've been covering, there's 2 monopoly cases on Google. I do plan to fully cover both, but I've only covered news coverage for both. In terms of going through the actual court documents and trial materials, I've only covered so far the Google search monopoly case. The initial complaint was filed 2020, and the trial happened 2023, and the exhibits we've been looking at were mostly filed in 2023, I believe. And it was in Judge Mehta's court, M-E-H-T-A. And that's how I been differentiating, making sure y'all know the difference, where we're at, what case we're on, because it can all get confusing and muddled up. But yeah, and I had previously mentioned, in the last streams I was doing on these monopoly cases, that I did want to cover and speak on some of the political issues on my mind. I did begin that coverage. It is linked in the description of this video, as well as another recent video I did that's really a summary, and for me the culmination of what has really helped me make sales and be successful with what success I have been lucky to have so far in marketing and sales. I put my secret sauce up in that video, and yeah. So anyway, I hope you go check that out, please, and it's also linked in the description of this video. And yeah, so I'm gonna roll my intro, and then we'll keep doing this bitch. Hi, my name is Alexis, also known as Lexi or Deaf Child. I was born deaf, hard of hearing. I began doing business as Deaf Child 2013, marketing 2011, sales 2009. I've earned 50 plus certifications in marketing and sales. My Bachelor of Science from Loyola University, New Orleans, with a music industry studies major and a business administration minor. Deafness runs in my family genetically. Speech is not fully accessible to me. Anyway, I'm here to bitch about whatever the fuck is on my mind. So here we go. Visit my site at noladeafchild.com. Okay, so I've been trying to count how many trial exhibits we've done, and to be honest, I forgot track of that, so I am pulling that up now. Let's see. Apologies. So, our last trial exhibit series, we went through 4 trial exhibits, and right now I am pulling up to see how many trial exhibits have I covered so far, because I totally forgot. I am just going to timestamp this so people can skip it if they would like. Let's see here. Marco. Oh, Alrighty, good. I'm so glad I checked because in my head I thought we had done 94, but we've actually done 96 trial exhibits so far. So I want to see if I can cover at least 4 today, so we can be at least 100, if not more. And so far we have covered 96 trial exhibits. So, and just to recap on the last 4 that we went over, the last 4, we had checked out first an email between Scott Spencer of Google and Jerry Dishler of Google, and this was about compliance with ads standards. And so there were legal compliance about how much advertising you could be showing for search engine results pages. And so they had an email discussion about that and about why in their search pages with search ads, they believe they were able to get away. Like what I interpreted from this is I believe they were saying that they could get away with both the display ads and the search ads on the pages because of the search ads being relevant to a user's query. So they were looking for that information. That was part of the way that they were working around some of the guidelines with how much advertising can you legally have and be showing. And so they were talking about that, and they were also saying that they were aware it could be annoying as well, and that they were aware that this wasn't optimal for the user experience as well in that email. And I believe that that was possibly put in evidence because they were able to be like, look, they know users don't like this shit, but they're doing it anyway. You know what I mean? In terms of like how it has a negative impact on the public community. And so so that was one thing that we looked at. And then another example that we looked at, or another email, was an email between Adrian Perica and John Giannandrea of Apple. And so this was an email with a presentation attached, and basically all of it almost was redacted, so we couldn't see a whole lot. But what we could see was this was an Apple presentation regarding Microsoft and the possibility of doing business with Microsoft. And they were basically saying, from my interpretation of that information, that if they tried to do business with Microsoft, it was going to fuck with their relationship with Google. And so that was a reason for them to consider, the competition with that would be a reason to consider not doing it, was basically what I understood them to be saying. And then after that, we looked at an email between Jerry Dishler of Google and Sridhar Ramaswamy of Google. And this was about internet takeaways from a North American search agency. And so they weren't giving us the name of the search agency, but what they were saying was that this one person in North America was spending a lot of money with them. And they were saying that they had a 4th desktop ad. So they were talking about how on desktop they went from 3 to 4 ads shown in this email series. And so they were saying that those positions represented about 4% of their ad spend with them. And so, but they had other ads that would make up for the lost revenue. And so even though that there were more ad placements to compete with, they were saying that for advertisers, they were still able to monetize with that. So even though on the user experience side, they admitted in that previous document this was a negative for the users to see more ads, they're also admitting in this other email documentation that it benefited the advertisers. And we also saw in this this documentation that they called it a Holy Grail and Holy Load project. Those were the project names. And then they were also saying that they did not have user complaints or noise by consumer advocates or PR in that documentation, even though in other documentation it was being said, in my opinion, if I got that correctly, that users did have a negative experience with it. So obviously they were able to gauge that from somewhere, right? If I got all of that correct. But anyway, fucking, and they were saying that, like, this guy named Giard was basically saying that he had to, he was the only person on the team motivated to move the project forward because the rest of the team knew it had a negative impact on the users. And so he was the only one willing to do it. And in that email, they were basically like, well, sometimes we have to sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? So it was like a weird email chain. Like, sacrifices must be made for the greater good was the response, or something like that. But yet, the only greater good that we could see here would be the profit for the companies involved, right? When we've already seen how it negatively impacts the users. And that's if I understood that correctly, right? Because I could be totally wrong about how I received all of that information. I am not a lawyer. I just have some experience in marketing and business. But anyway, fucking, then we looked at a Google document. Oh, the pitch between Adam Judah delivering a next level performance. And so the pitch was about this guy named Adam, but it wasn't written by Adam. It was pitching somebody else to deliver something, I think, in my understanding, because it looks like the person that was pitching this document, they had their name redacted, and that's what the document was called. But in that document, whoever the fuck is speaking was basically saying, like, how much work they had put into Google, all of the shit that they have done in order to be, you know, part of the company. In my opinion, he was basically like, look, I drank the fucking Kool-Aid. I did everything for you guys. And then he also says in this email, he was like, he mentions the Department of Justice antitrust shit. And he's like, I know where all the dead bodies are, is literally what he fucking says in this, like, quote unquote pitch. And he says keeper of many skeletons, not I know where the dead bodies are. I took that as I know where the dead bodies are. He literally said keeper of many skeletons. So, you know, tomato, tomato, potato, potato. But they also talk about the merging of broad match modifier and phrase keywords when it comes to how you can use modifiers to control the way that the certain terms you are paying to rank for are appear. So that way you can control what exactly you're paying for, you know? And they're having changes of that over the years. And you know what? I should probably do a whole nother live stream on some of those changes, maybe, I think. Anyway, but yeah, that was also mentioned in there. And so that's not, I don't know if how it processed, if that part of the document was relevant to the Monopoly case, but I am fascinated with it. Anyway, so yeah, but the rest of that, like, literally talking about the Department of Antitrust concerns and then saying that they know where the skeletons are buried and this person's name's redacted. Yeah. So that's where we left off last time. And so that put us. We had done four exhibits. Then we are at 96 exhibits covered so far before this, and we'll see how many more we can get through today. So yeah. Okie dokie. Let's see here. Next up, we've got exhibit UPX0467, and this is a Google document on why leaning on AQ to deliver about 20% long-term-Rasta RPM for all of search ads is a fragile strategy. And this is from November 6, 2018, if they dated this correctly, because some of those dates were wrong in the before. And it was filed October 6, 2023. Okay. And so this is also, whoever put this together, their name is redacted. And I don't know. There we go. So it says, why leaning on AQ, I assume they mean ads quality, to deliver about 20% long-term-Rasta RPM for all of search ads is a fragile strategy. Too long didn't read, it's likely not possible. And the person who put this together is redacted from these filings. The summary. Historically, the overwhelming majority of search ads, 20% RPM OKR, has rested on its shoulders of the search ads quality team. This document articulates why that strategy is structurally becoming more fragile over time and likely is not one on which to rely in 2020. And it says plus, but I like the way beyond sounds there. Issue 1. External structural headwinds. PLAs appear like they will be touching redacted of spend in 2019. Query nav. So at most, redacted of Google.com spend comes from search ads, and perhaps much less if travel is included in query nav. I can't tell. Therefore, redacted more is being asked of ads quality relative to a long time ago if they alone need to get to 20%. Automated bidding is also seemingly resulting in advertisers ever more setting target cost per acquisitions or max strategies, which in turn inhibits ad quality from raising prices and or increasing clicks to increase revenue. You know, I'm gonna pause here. I don't really know why I'm reading some acronyms but not others, but let me tell you. PLA means product list ad, or something shit like that, if I'm not mistaken. And then RPM is revenue per thousands impressions, some shit like that. And I'm pretty sure that OKR means objective key result or some shit like that, if I'm not mistaken. Close enough. Alright, my bad. And then it says, while such bidding strategies may be proper from a long-term advertiser health perspective, it creates a headwind for RPM launches, likely manifested most strongly in the discounts taken by the team when mapping Rasta RPM to long-term RPM, factoring in advertiser response, often a 50% haircut. And so here, I believe that they are just using, from my interpretation of this information, the concept of Rasta as an example in this discussion, I think, as a keyword. And then it says, if I'm not mistaken, I actually haven't processed this yet. I could be wrong. Issue 2, internal structural headwinds. Relative to the past, when the OKR was still 20%, we are now dramatically more conservative in how we translate Rasta RPM to bookable RPM. Budget adjusting is a 20% haircut. We seemingly take a 50% haircut on at least redacted of Rasta RPM from pricing-oriented launches. Book at least redacted fewer than we would have in the past on such launches. Long-term user quality may be a bit more of a wash, as we both don't book negatives and positives from quality launches. So for now, I will assume these cancel. However, just according for budget and advertiser adjusting, redacted more is being asked of ads quality relative to a long time ago, given how much more conservatively we book things these days relative to the past. Issue 3. Things less broken than ever despite bar never higher. Issues 1 and 2 combined imply that roughly redacted is needed of ads quality now relative to yesterday in order to achieve the 20% RPM OKR. In other words, in order for ads quality alone in 2019 to achieve the 20% RPM OKR, they would need to launch things, which would have been booked as redacted RPM several years back. As a reminder, several years back, the team was only booking redacted depending on the year. And the footnotes for here. 1, it says, for target ROI and products. As well, ROI means return on investment. As CPCs increase, cost per clicks, the bidding will automatically lower. For max strategies, which look no BC but are actually BC, as clicks increase, the bidding will automatically lower. Gonna be honest with you, no fucking clue what the BC right here means. Before click? I don't fucking know. Like what? Let's see. While we're at it, yeah, and it's not a common, it must be an internal. What I see online is BC could likely mean British Columbia. That could make sense here. I don't know. So if they're saying that they're trying to exclude British Columbia, but there's British Columbia leads, as clicks increase, the bidding will lower? I don't know. That doesn't make sense. I don't know what the fuck they mean by BC here, to be honest. And then let's make sure that, let's see if I'm wrong about the Rasta. It says it's not a recognized term with Google Ads or marketing, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm seeing other stuff like return on ad spend and target return on ad spend, but I already know about that, so yeah. So I'm going to, for now, assume that my assumptions on those things are assumptions. I don't know. But you know, look into that with what you will. I don't feel like doing it today. Anyway, the next thing it said is budget adjusting has been happening for a while, but not always. Therefore, while the team has already been having to work harder, emerging circumstances are resulting in ad quality being asked to work harder still. So yeah, they're basically, this is the second footnote, by the way, and it says a lot of people have been adjusting their budget in order to, you know, maximize their return on ad spend, I'm assuming, but not everybody does it. But when people try to because it's an ad auction system, so if marketers work together to lower the average price of the ad, then they're saying that the ad quality has to work harder to get for that ad to get shown, is what I'm kind of taking from it, but I could be wrong. Okay, so next in the document, not the footnotes, but moving out of those footnotes, the document was saying, is search ads more broken than ever in creating RPM in order to facilitate such dramatically outsized productivity from the search ads team? If anything, I would argue the opposite. Targeting. Probably an area which still has a lot of headroom, but capturing that headroom has proven very challenging. Two relaxations of exact match are creating some advertiser anxiety, while targeting overall return 2%, about less than 2%, and RPM cumulatively, I am not speaking right, over 2018. Dramatic product changes are likely required in order to capture the opportunity here, but the extent to which such dramatic changes can be landed within 2019 is suspect. Prediction stack. If anything, we may be generating too much revenue versus too little. Since the launch of AdBrain, people feel pretty good about predicted click-through rate, and per Google 70, otherwise RPM positive launches are tuned to RPM negative states in light of excess cost per click understandings. Within click quality, I think the general belief is that we're likely showing more low quality ads that we ought to not be showing relative to high quality ads that are not making their way through to the auction. Auction overpricing. The general belief here is there is more juice in getting prices right or higher than in improving the allocation of ads. Now this is going to be a key takeaway right here from this document. As already seen by 50% response recovered by advertisers, this is a path for generating revenue that is finite in nature. Ads user interface. The fraction of clicks going to ads on pages with ads is climbing ever higher, and there is seemingly a real risk that we might be approaching some asymptote. What the fuck word is that? Anyway, let's Google this shit. The fuck? Means a line that continually approaches a given curve but does not meet it at any finite distance. Interesting. Okie dokie. Asymptote. For what is possible here? If anything, 100% of clicks going to ads is a clear ceiling. Other. Language targeting and budget are avenues that ought to create value in 2019. However, at some point, language stuff will be fixed, and budgets have a natural headroom based on BC spend percentage. Man, I'm annoyed I don't know what the BC means. Before Christ. Birth control spend percentage. Just gonna go with it. So it too has a finite opportunity to create value. So yes, while there is more than can be done within ad quality, and ad quality will work hard to do what it can, and I even believe can mostly carry the company in 2019, especially when thinking about 2020 and beyond. Ads quality to deliver redacted more than it has in the past is likely unrealistic. Personally, I believe something has to change dramatically among non-AQ teams when it comes to their ability to contribute to the RPM OKR, along with expectations and accountability thereof. And we have a sidebar here of some comments. Where's the first one at? The first comment, comment number 1. I agree that we are pretty conservative with pure pricing launches. Then again, they are a new phenomenon. Do you think we should be more liberal in counting these? Comment 2. Overall, I agree with the bottom line and top line, which thankfully repeats the bottom line. And this is about the very last paragraph that we had just read. He was like, I agree with you, and you're redundant as fuck. Anyway, but not some of the logic. I think the dot could be strengthened by addressing some of my comment feedback as well as by proposing a solution for some redacted shit. Just finished my coffee. Comment 3. I can address the comments above. As for proposing a solution, most of that would entail me proposing work for teams I don't co-manage. So it wasn't clear to me if I should be doing that versus it being their jobs. Thoughts? He's like, hey, what the fuck are you paying me to do, bitch? Just kidding. Comment 4. I think it's fine to propose something. For example, shopping and travel take on objectives proportional to their revenue contribution. So, I'm going to go back. Where was my key takeaway? Yeah. What I'm really getting from this is this auction pricing section. The general belief here is there is more juice in getting prices right than in improving the allocation of ads. But nowhere in this article do they just negate or dispute that belief? Or whatever the fuck document this is. Anyway, that's my key takeaway. So next up, exhibit. Did I say exhibit? I was looking at the letter U and I was thinking of exhibit. What the fuck am I saying? Exhibit UPX0472. We got another email from Varian, our guy Hal of Google, to Jonathan Rosenberg of Google. And it's related to October 2010 search share numbers. And it was filed, not filed, and it was from, this is from November 21st, 2010. So it's a reply about October 2010 in November 21st, 2010, I think. And it was filed November 4th, 2023 with this case. So, let's see. It's from Hal. I don't know why it says Hal on behalf of Hal, which is interesting that I said that on the from section. From Hal, but the to line here says redacted. I don't understand. Did it just tell us over here though who it was? It says it's from Hal to Jonathan Rosenberg on the display right here, but in the document it's redacted, which I'm really entertained by. But maybe it's because they have to redact the email address or some shit. But anyway. And then the subject is about replying about October 2010 search share numbers. And Hal said, "Thanks, Jonathan. I go over these numbers with Penny before she sends them out. The AdSense share comes from my team." Before that, Jonathan had just forwarded a message from Johanna Wright, and he hadn't said anything extra to that forward. But Johanna Wright of Google had written the subject October 2010 search share numbers, and it everybody that it was to, their emails are all redacted, but the names that we can see are Lorraine Toohill, Gary Briggs, Joan Brady, and Tony Fagan, shit, man, I don't know how to fuck say your name, my bad, and Penny Chu. And then it says, the October search share numbers are in. ComScore has also just announced. The high-level summary is that all sources show a slight increase to Bing, between about 0.2% and 0.4%. Results for Google are mixed based on the source, ranging from negative 1.1%, 0.1%, what the fuck am I saying, to about 0.6%. In the cases where Google is up, it appears to be taking share from Yahoo and not from Bing. There have been some changes in the way we calculate share since the instant launch. We have introduced the notion of session here. A session is a series of search queries that ends after a 5-minute pause between queries. We have also introduced the notion of a page view share, which looks at the number of results pages seen and incorporates explicit actions taken from Google Instant. Page view share closely mirrors how ComScore calculates share and gives us a gut check on their metrics. Here are the numbers. A big thanks to Penny Chu and her team for their work. And it says, so, CUP US search share based on search sessions, or the CUP is capitalized. I want to say CUP, but I don't know if that's an acronym, whatever. I'm not even going to read this because I feel like I can't even read it right for it to make sense anyway, but basically they're putting search share numbers between Google, Bing, and Yahoo. Fuck, I guess I am reading it. And the percentage differences. So it's showing where Google has about 68 or 71% of search for search sessions or for modified search share, whatever the fuck they mean by that. Bing has about 9% and Yahoo has about 14 or 15%, give or take. And then they also have it for analytics and for AdSense. So Google has about 82% AdSense for analytics, and Google has about 80% for AdSense. Bing has 7%, about 7.7% for both analytics and AdSense, and then Yahoo has 9.7% click share in analytics and 8.8% click share in AdSense. And in the ComScore, explicit share, and our source is search engine land. So Google has about 66%, Bing had about 11.5%, and Yahoo had 16.5% at the time of this document. And it says ComScore explicit share is calculated for Google, Yahoo, Bing sites, which includes other search properties, but excludes maps and YouTube. In CUP, or CUP, we've always only counted web search. We know how Google explicit queries are counted post-instant, but we do not know exactly how ComScore defines explicit queries for Bing and Yahoo. But basically what we're seeing here is the market share that is reported between Google, Bing, and Yahoo, and we are able to see where Google is dominating that market share. And I believe this is possibly put into evidence to show, again, further proof of how Google maintained, because all of it has been showing that we've looked at, most of it has been showing how they maintain market power. So here we have evidence from within their documents of what that market power was in terms of the market share. You know what I'm saying? And yeah. All right, another one, exhibit UPX0475. We got an email from Dominic Tang of Google to Philipp Schindler of Google et al. Called Q2 Ads Financials Recap, October 8th, 2019, with attached Google document, Global Ads Financials Fact Pack from Q2 2018. And it was from July 1st, 2019. And this was filed November 4th, 2023. So, it's a Global Ads Financial Fact Pack, but a lot of it is redacted here, so that's like really fucking entertaining to me. Like anytime it's something financial related, you know you're just gonna redact the fuck out of it. But I really wish we could see like a little more of it. Like I'm kind of hoping if maybe I keep reading enough, I'll get to see something. You know, maybe don't forget to redact something. Anyway, so our first section here looks to be about year-over-year growth, but it's redacted. And it says Q2 revenue growth globally was redacted. And then they show the redacted percentage year-over-year growth for the Americas, as well as for Europe, I'm assuming, and East Asia, I think. And the Asia Pacific, I'm assuming, perhaps, or maybe Europe and East Africa and Asia. I think they're showing it like that, but you know. Anyway. So they're talking about the entirety of their Q2 revenue growth, and they split it by the different regions, but it's all redacted. They also do the same thing for mobile query growth, but it's also redacted, as well as for the total search query growth, but that was redacted. And they do say that it improved from Q2, improved from Q1. And then in terms of the amount of money, this original filing appears to show what that revenue was, but it's redacted here, and it says Q2 global revenue was redacted, of which redacted year over year was from sites and redacted was from network. And then it says ads 2018 operating profit expected at redacted margin, redacted above plan, supported by strong served revenue, favorable mix shift, and underspend. I am burping. And OPEX and other and operations expenses and other costs. And it's redacted. So yeah. I am so classy. I show up to these live streams and I'm just like over here burping more than Shrek. So yeah. Basically, they're saying that that the Asian Pacific areas, that their revenue year-over-year growth accelerated further in Q2 2018, and that it was their 6th consecutive quarter with growth acceleration in that region. And then they also give us user adoption metrics, but a lot of it's all redacted here. And they show the desktop search query share versus the mobile search query share. In the United States, they got 84% desktop share, 97% mobile share. Canada seemed to have 88% desktop, 98% mobile. It looks like Great Britain had 85% desktop, 99% mobile. Denmark, 87% desktop, 99% mobile. France, 88% desktop, 99% mobile. Japan, 51% desktop, 66% mobile. Australia, 91. Wait, is BR Britain and GB something else? I don't know why I thought GB was Great Britain. The fuck is GB then? God damn it. I am so ignorant. See, this is why they shouldn't have Americans reporting. We're not geographically inclined to know geography. Man, I'm sorry, whatever fucking place that was. You know what? I'm gonna stop right here. Y'all get the point. But no matter the fucking place, except for Russia. Russia is interesting. Russia shows that Google only had 22% desktop and 48% mobile, but we also have already seen how Russia had passed those laws to where Google couldn't be the default there. So I think that's interesting. The only place where in places where Google doesn't have extreme majority market share is places where laws are passed so other places are allowed to be default. In my opinion, if I understand all of this correctly, I could be wrong. Anyway, it says data as of Q2 2018, except for, I think it says YT adoption. Does that mean YouTube? I don't know. And Android shipments, a percentage of which are as of Q1 2018. Apps share data are based on recent 4 weeks. Notes. 1. Searchiness. Android. 1 day active search users and percentage of 1 day active Android users. 2. Google app queries and a percentage of iOS. Percentage of iOS search queries on google.com that originate from the Google search app. It says YT adoption again, but I'm assuming they mean YouTube. For Android, it says 1 day active YouTube users as percentage of 1 day active Android users. 4. Share of top 10 app downloads on iOS. A percentage of the top 10 apps downloaded on iOS App Store that are owned by Google. 5. App usage share on Android. A percentage of time spent on Google apps on Android. Data likely to have a Google bias given it's based on Google Now users. 6. Android shipments percentage. Android percentage of HED phones shipped. 7. Android query share. A percentage of Google.com HED searches that are made from Android devices. 8. Play share of App Store downloads. A percentage of total app downloads across Play plus iOS App Store that are made on Play. So yeah. And at the bottom here it says Google confidential and proprietary. So I'm assuming they didn't want the public to access any of this. But yeah, my key takeaway here is looking at these numbers and paying attention to how the countries where it's okay for Google to be the default, Google has majority market share, but when other places have the option to become the default, Google loses that placehold. And I think that's relevant to the monopoly case because they were showing that that's how Google used a monopoly, and this is kind of like showing that happening, in my opinion. I feel like in my head it's connected and it's right, but I don't know if I'm saying this correctly. You know what I mean? But we're here now. So next up we got an exhibit UPX 0482. And this is an email from Rami Al-Kabra. I'm so sorry, I don't think I'm saying this right. From Rami Al-Kabra of Al-Kabra? Oof, so terrible. I'm going to move on. Of T-Mobile to Jeff Giard of T-Mobile et al. Updated search opportunity Vision Plus plan. And this is from July 9th, 2020 with attached T-Mobile document. A T-Mobile search experience from May 2020. And it also says Giard Depo Exhibit 6 on here. And this is from November 15th, 2023. Let's see. Okay. So it's from Rami to Jeff Giard and Ryan Ladijus. So sorry, I can't pronounce any of these fucking people's names right, man. But the subject is updated search opportunity vision and plan. And I believe that these are all Google employees. No, these are T-Mobile. I just read that shit too. This is an internal T-Mobile document, it looks like. So it says, "Hi Jeff and Ryan, please find attached an updated doc. I've added more content to the doc and organized it. I've also highlighted in yellow the open questions and to-do items. Please let me know your thoughts. Jeff, I'll talk to you tomorrow about hiring a design firm to help prototype T-Mobile search app concepts. Best regards, Rami." And under that it says, "Dream in years, plan in months, evaluate in weeks, ship daily." A quote from DJ Patil. You know, I'm gonna come back up here because I keep music videos linked in my personal email footer, and some people judge me for that. But this guy is on his work, is on his work email, putting Twitter statuses in his signature. Anyway, so T-Mobile search experience, table of contents, background, problem, solution, product design, test, and launch plan. And it's showing 5 pages here, but we've only got a 4-page document, so I'm assuming that we don't have access to all this. Background. At T-Mobile, we obsess over customer experience. We obsess over minute details. We are very picky when it comes to the products and services we offer our customers. For the past redacted years, we've had a contract with Google to provide Google search services on T-Mobile's owned and operated properties. This contract generates around redacted revenue for T-Mobile. Even though the relationship has been a good source of cash for us, we have absolutely no control over the customer experience or the monetization. Google is the one that controls both. Therefore, we should explore alternatives that allow us to fully control and manage the customer experience, as well as monetization. Unfortunately, Google is by far the biggest search provider in the United States. And then it's got like a graph, but my vision is shit. I can't read this shit. I'm not even gonna fucking try to. But here I am trying to. Okay, I lied. So it says stat counter global stats. Mobile search engine market share, United States of America from April 2019, I think. That's either 2009 or 2019. I literally really cannot read that. Oh, but I can copy it. Let me copy and see what number that is. Oh, it's 2019. Anyway, between April 2019 and April 2020. And it shows Google at like 96.23 or 62. I can't fucking tell. But Google's got like 97%. Yahoo has like 2.5%. Bing has like 1.5%. DuckDuckGo has 1%. Ecosia has 0.06 of a percentage, I think, if I got that right, or some shit like that. Maybe I'm wrong. And then it shows other at like 0.1 of a percentage. And it says search still dominates mobile device usage. We search for places, product info, shopping sites, apps on our devices, weather forecasts, songs, videos, appointments, etc., etc. And then it shows problem, but that's redacted. And then it shows a solution. We have 2 major strengths that we can leverage. With the new T-Mobile, we have a reach of about 100 million customers. TMS has a seasoned and well-connected sales team that can go direct to advertisers. I'm wondering if they mean T-Mobile services. I don't know. And then it says, there are multiple options for T-Mobile United States on the road to taking back control of customer experience and monetization. There's 3 items under here, but we only get to see the first one. It says 1. Negotiate with Google more favorable financial and experience terms for T-Mobile. The new solution we design can have a combination of search engines, such as Bing, Amazon, Branch, and others, and provide results as well as an elements of image or video content and ads. And this next part here is redacted, and then it says product design. But first, we should identify the use cases that our customers require. As customer, I want to conduct a general web search to find information about miscellaneous subjects so that I can research something, look up definitions, find Wikipedia articles, etc. 2. As a customer, I want to research and purchase X. 3. As a customer, I want to find the nearest, I guess it's redacted, the nearest variable so that I can do something. 4. As a customer, I want to find a video about something so that I can watch it. 5. As a customer, I want to find a song I heard on the radio or where I was at somewhere so that I can add it to my playlist or play it. So yeah, so they consider different use cases of searches and how to solve those problems. But my key takeaway here is they admit, 1, Google has dominant market share. 2, Google is controlling their ability to make money. And 3, if Google, they're gonna have to go risk losing their access to money to go against Google or beg Google to give them better options, but they don't think Google has a reason to because Google is the only option they have. Is what I'm kind of getting from this document. You know what I'm saying? And I think that definitely speaks to the monopolization because, you know what I mean? They're able to literally, T-Mobile is a major fucking telephone company, and Google is able to completely control their ability to earn. And they literally admitted it in their internal documents here. So yeah. So that now puts us at 100 trial exhibits covered so far. That's really exciting for me because that's a lot. But we still got a lot more to go. We are just now, we've just barely passed halfway through. So we're going to probably end up at about 200 trial exhibits, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it's a lot of material, but we're doing it. We are getting through it, and we still got another fucking case to go. So just to recap on today's stream, we got through 4 documents today. First up, we went through a Google document about while leaning on ad quality to deliver about 20% long-term revenue per 1,000 impressions for all of SearchAds is a fragile strategy. And I still have no clue what Rasta meant in that application to that. I was just making some shit up, y'all. Literally, do not take me seriously when I was like, yeah, Rasta, as in, I don't know if that's actually appropriate too, because that is a religion. But you know what I mean? Or a culture or a lifestyle. So I apologize if that wasn't appropriate to make light of there, because I didn't mean to be making light of it. I just didn't know what the fuck they meant, you know. But anyway, so my key takeaway from that document, though, was where they are literally saying that the general belief was that they get more juice. Who knows what they mean by juice? I'm assuming they mean revenue. You know what I'm saying? More benefits, more energy. From getting prices right, and they put in quotation marks, higher. They mean getting prices higher. Getting the prices higher is what's right to them. Then improving the allocation of their ads. So they're literally saying they don't really care how their ads are distributed as long as they're making money. That's the key takeaway from that document. You know what I mean? That I got, if I'm not mistaken. And then after that, we had an email between Varian of Google and Jonathan Rosenberg of Google related to October 2010 search share numbers. And in that document, they're showing how Google has the most market share over any other search company. And so, and that's an internal document. And of course, that just needs to be put into evidence, of course, because in the presentations that the state put together, they were making these claims, but you can't make the claims without the evidence to back it up. So these documents are those evidence to back it up that we're looking over here. So even though we already know this theoretically because we were told this, so we already know that because obviously they were sued for it, this is why. This is how. This is the proof, And then after that, we looked at an email between Dominic Tang of Google and Philipp Schindler of Google. And that was a Q2 ads financials recap. And we were looking over the attached Google document called Global Ads Financials Fact Pack. But of course, basically that whole bitch was redacted. But the key takeaways that I got from there was we could see in their market share portion how in all of the regions that Google was allowed to maintain default exclusivity, they had extremely high market share. But in the regions where they were no longer allowed to have that default exclusivity or it was getting weakened, that's where their market share was less than. And so we can see how that default exclusivity was really what their business is based on and the monopolization is based on and how they were able to get here. You know what I'm saying? And then we looked at the last thing we checked out was the email between Rami Al-Kabra. I am so sorry. I am not saying that right, I think. I apologize. Of T-Mobile to Jeff Giard of T-Mobile. And it was about an updated search opportunity vision plan. And it had an attached T-Mobile document about T-Mobile search experience. And in that document, they were literally like, Google has us by the balls. We are fucked when it comes to making money. And the only way we can make money is if we beg Google for mercy or we try to do something outside of Google, but we don't have options outside of Google because they control everything. You know what I'm saying? That's what I got from that document. And so, yeah, that puts us here now. We are at 100 trial exhibits covered so far, so that's pretty exciting. And we're just going to keep banging them out, keep seeing how many more we can get through as we process all of this. I think it's very interesting because a lot of the information that I'm looking at, like when Google had put together those presentations, I knew that there would be a way for Google to, not Google putting together presentations, whenever the Department of Justice was putting those presentations, and we were looking over those presentations about Google, I knew that there was some level of which they had evidence for this, because of course you have to go to court, right? But I assumed that a lot of this evidence would be from the legal filings, from documents accessed from other places, right? But a lot of documents that we're accessing are internal documents that they were able to get access to. But it's just a lot more internal admission of these facts than I expected. I thought that it was going to be like mostly outside documentation that pointed to the internal issues, but in this evidence, like half of the evidence is, in my opinion, Google admitting themselves that this is what they're doing, in my opinion, if I understand correctly. And again, I'm not an attorney. I just love law, and I do have a lot of experience in marketing and sales and business, but yeah. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. We're going to keep getting through what we get through. I've got more shit planned. Stuff is coming. Life is happening. We're doing it. And thank you for joining me today. Bye. Thanks for watching. Join the loyalty program at noladeathchild.com/loyalty and check in during live streams to get points for rewards.